Our repair vehicle today is a 2000 Honda Civic 1.6 dual overhead cam engine, and we're going to be replacing our front brake pads. Let's get started. Here's our factory replacement brake parts. What we have is we have one with the scraper. We're going to want to make sure we install that properly. Going to go on the inboard side. Our outboard doesn't have a scraper. First thing we're going to do is we're going to loosen up our lug nuts, then we're going to raise the car. Always a good idea to put some kind of support system underneath the vehicle when you're working on it. What we're going to need is a ratchet, a 10 and 12 millimeter socket. We're also going to have a way to depress our caliper in. We're also going to need veneer calipers to measure our pads. We're going to need a torque wrench to torque our lug nuts to 80 foot-pounds. A support stand and a jack. Let's get started. What we want to do is we want to loosen our lug nuts before we jack up our vehicle. And the best way to do this is take and push down. When you go up, when you want to go up, you want to put a strain on your lower back. Not a good idea. So as long as you go down, it's safer. I always like to open my hand, so if I come down on the concrete, I don't pinch a finger underneath. Now that we have our lug nuts loosened, let's get our jack, raise our vehicle. We're going to use a support stand also. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove our lug nuts now that we have our car jacked up and our support stand underneath there, just in case. I'm just going to remove this, set it to one side. Now that we have our wheel removed, what we want to do is we want to check the condition of our rotor. We want to check the condition of our hoses. And we want to just take a good visual look, make sure there's anything getting wore out or going to break soon. What we're going to do is we're going to remove these two bolts, 10 millimeter. We're going to remove our lower bolt here, 12 millimeter. We're going to lift this up. We're going to remove our brake pads and our brake pad clips. What we're going to do is we're going to remove our brake hose bracket from our knuckle. Again, you may want to check the condition of your brake hose. Then we're going to loosen and remove our bolt from our caliper. We rotated this up. That gives us access for our brake pads. What we're going to do is we're going to just slide these out. And we want to note that our scraper is on the top. So when we go to replace, we're going to put our scraper right on top there. We want to inspect the condition of our clips. Everything looks good. And what we're also going to want to do is we're going to want to compare our factory replacements with our originals. So let's do that. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that they're the same in width and length. We have our scraper in the same area. Now if you were going to just inspect the pad, what you'd want to do is mic this area here, deduct this area, and what we should have is no less than 1.5 millimeter of thickness of pad here. The factory replacements are between 8.5 millimeter and 9.5 millimeter. Let's just go ahead and check to see what we have here. Let's get our calipers out and take a measurement. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to measure the full distance with the pad. And we have about 10 millimeter, let's say. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to measure our backing plate, which looks to be about 5.5 millimeter. So we're going to subtract the 10 from the 5, which leaves us about 4 millimeter of pad. If you were going to reuse them and you were just inspecting them, make sure you actually install them on the same side Don't interchange any of the brake pads or parts. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make a quick inspection of our replacement pad. We got about 16 millimeter. We're going to measure our backing plate, which is about 6. So we're looking at about 9.5 to 10 millimeter here on our pad. That looks all within factory specs, so let's go ahead and install them. Before we install our pads, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to move our piston in. So we're just going to twist this. We're just going to rotate that piston right on in there. Want to make sure it's nice and firmly seated. Want to make sure there's no tears in our rubber booty for our caliper piston. Just rotate that in. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to apply polycoat to our brake pad surfaces, which will be here, here, our caliper piston. And when installing brakes, the brake pads, you don't want to get any grease on the pad surface. We're going to apply grease here, here, and here. And last, right there. Want to make sure we didn't get any grease on our rotors. What we're going to do is we're going to take our factory replacement pad. We're going to insert it with our scraper on the top. Our outboard pad actually has a shim that we're going to install on the back side of this. So we're just going to set that on there, just like that. And we're going to install our pad. We're going to rotate our caliper down. And we're going to install our bolt, and we're going to tighten it. What we're going to do is we're going to tighten our 2 bolts right here. And tighten them up. Again, we want to take a look, make sure everything's good, check the hoses, make sure nothing's in the way, everything looks good. So what we're going to do is we're going to install our wheel. Now that we have our wheel installed, we're going to remove our support stand, we're going to remove our jack, and we're going to torque our wheels to 80 foot-pounds. What we want to do is we want to push down with our weight till we hear our torque wrench click. Just like that. We want to go back, double check. What's very important here is we're going to go inside the car, we're going to depress our foot pedal. It's going to be really soft, and we're going to bring that pedal up high. So let's do that. Now that we have our brakes installed, what we're going to do is we're going to depress our pedal, and it's going to go all the way to the floor. And what we're going to do is we're going to keep pressing it till we build up pressure. And you can feel we have a nice firm pressure now, nice hard brake pedal. Now we can go test drive our vehicle.